Hey everyone, first and foremost I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. And if you are watching the video, then most likely it's because you're having a little bit of issues reaching your fitness goals. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the 3 key elements you want to have in place to create phenomenal results, the 2 barriers you have to pass through to create lasting change, and why traditional personal training just doesn't produce results for so many people. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about our first key element, and that is going to be a dynamic training program. So the key word here is dynamic. Let's put a there. Okay, dynamic. Dynamic meaning changing, moving, varied. Our bodies are adaptation machines. It takes the human body 4 to 6 weeks to adapt to an exercise stimulus. So if you're doing the same thing here for more than 6 weeks at a time, then most likely your results have slowed down or halted altogether. So what you need to do is change up your program, change up your method of training, right? So we're going to talk about a couple of those ways here so you can take action on it right away. So if you're one of those people who's been like you saw great results and then like all of a sudden like nothing's happening, right? So this is something that you can do to start seeing those results rolling again, right? So one thing you can do is start decreasing the weight and increasing the reps. Or if you've been doing high repetitions with low weights already, then you can do the exact opposite, right? You can increase the weight while decreasing the reps. Right, and just so you know what's happening with both of these different styles here, with lower weight and higher reps, you're going to be creating more endurance. You're going to give your body more time for a stabilization adaptation, right? With higher weights and lower reps, now you're starting to build more strength, build more muscle mass, right? So depending on where you've been here, these are great variations that you can start trying. Or if you've been doing a lot of barbell work, you can switch it to dumbbell work, or vice versa. Or you can train on unstable surfaces like a BOSU or a TRX or stability ball. All of these are ways to create different stimulus for your body so it can adapt, right? Have fun with it. Just make sure you're not doing the same thing for more than 6 weeks at a time. That's a surefire way to hit that wall, that plateau, and nothing but demotivation follows that. So let's get into the second element we want to incorporate in our program here. So the second element, super important here, is a consistent diet. Oops, that's not how you spell diet. Okay, it's a consistent diet. Now, regardless of how you like to eat, you're going to want to follow a regimented schedule with specific guidelines in order to see results. Diets do work. I mean, you know, they got that book that says diets don't work, but they do work. You just have to follow it, and that's the thing. The most effective diet is the diet you'll actually follow. So if you're doing low carb, no carb, vegan, vegetarian, keto, pescatarian, Mediterranean, all of the different diets out there. If you're doing those and they're making you want to pull your hair out, then that's not the right diet for you. What I do is I have my clients follow a more flexible style of eating. So they can still eat the foods that they enjoy while achieving phenomenal results. And as time goes by, we start introducing healthier options. And with time and consistency, a new eating habit is formed. And great results, phenomenal results follow that, I promise you. So diets do work. You just want to make sure that it's a diet that you're actually going to follow. So that is the second element, is consistent dieting. And the third element here is the one that I believe ties it all together. From what I've seen in fitness and life and business and relationships, this is the number one element you want to have in place in order to be able to sustain the effort needed to create those results, right? And this third element is accountability. And not just any type of accountability, right? It has to be the right amount of accountability. So With the right amount of accountability, human beings can push themselves to do amazing things. I have a client who wakes up every morning at somewhere between 2 and 2:30 every morning. And she does it for work, right? But what is it that gets her up every morning at between 2 and 2:30, right? She could have went to bed at 12 last night, but she's still going to wake up at 2:30 the next morning, right? And it's because she has the right amount of accountability attached to her. She knows she has a family, she has a boss, she has coworkers who all depend on her getting up and performing. So she defies all those voices in her head that say, hey, it's cold outside, lay back down, you are super tired, lay back down. She defies those voices and she gets up anyway. So, and it's because she has the right amount of accountability attached to it. I mean, think of some of the things that you've accomplished, right? Some of the things that you've achieved in your life that you never would have done, never would have even tried if you didn't have the right amount of accountability attached to it. And in that practice, you can see that accountability is what pushes you through. It's what keeps you consistent with your diet. It's what allows you to train long enough to where you need to vary it up because you've been working out for 6 weeks at a time. You've been working out for 3 months at a time, right? So accountability is what brings it all together and makes those phenomenal results possible. And there's a lot of ways to set up accountability. You can, if you have somebody in your life whose opinion you really take to heart, somebody that you really trust, it's a great opportunity to set up a accountability partner. You can say like, hey, you know what? I really respect your opinion. I trust what you have to say. I want you to hold me accountable to this goal, right? Or you can pay people. Money is a great way to create accountability. You can say, hey, if you catch me eating a cupcake, right? Or if you see me skipping a day at the gym, I owe you X amount of dollars. And that's like a really powerful way to set up accountability, right? And those are the steps right there. You want to make sure you have a dynamic training program. It's changing every 4 to 6 weeks. You want to make sure your diet is consistent. You also want to set yourself up for success by putting together the right amount of accountability for yourself, right? So your friend who says, hey, don't worry about it, we'll go to the gym tomorrow, you know, tomorrow's a new day, all this type of stuff. That's not the right amount of accountability for you. It has to be something where you know the pain of skipping is way worse than the pain of following through. So going to the gym is going to be a lot better than missing because this accountability system that you set up for yourself, right? So as you can see, and I'm sure you can see, that if you put all three of those elements together, that you'll be able to achieve your results with a lot more efficiency. And when you do achieve those results, you're going to want to take them with you into the future, right? You don't want to do the yo-yo dance where you lose weight, then you gain it back. You gain muscle and then you lose it, and then just go round and round, circle, 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 right? What you want to do is create the habits that are necessary to propel those results into the future, right? Habits are the key. If you aren't eating healthy, it's only because you've developed a habit of unhealthy eating. If you don't go to the gym, if you don't work out, it's not because you're lazy, it's because you've developed a habit of not working out, right? And changing habits is tough. It kind of sucks, right? You have to pass through 2 barriers to create lasting habits, to create lasting change, right? So we're going to talk about those 2 barriers, right? So the first one is more obvious, it's well talked about, but the second one is less understood, less prepared for, and is one of the main reasons why people will not be able to create lasting change and they'll just keep doing that yo-yo dance, right? So let's talk about the first one here, right? So the first barrier is the obvious one. This is the getting started barrier. So a lot of people, as they approach this barrier, they start to make excuses like, I need more information. I have to find the right gym. I don't know if I'm ready yet. These type of things. These are all just excuses not to get started, right? Because you see the massive challenge ahead and it's kind of intimidating, right? So there's only one real key that you need to get past this getting started barrier, right? And that key is motivation. Right? And that motivation can come from anywhere, right? It can come from seeing a picture of yourself. You're like, oh, whoa, things got to change, right? Or it can come from going to the doctor and the doc says, hey, you know what, you got to change something, or you're setting yourself up for premature death. Or it can come from not being able to keep up with your kids. It can come from it can come from an inspirational talk, right? Hopefully you're getting a little bit of motivation from this conversation we're having right now, right? The motivation is the key to getting over the getting started barrier, because once you get juiced up, once you get amped up, ready to go, you're like, you know what, that's it, I'm making a change. This is gonna be the time where it all happens, right? Then you're off to the races. And then you've jumped over that obstacle, right? The getting started barrier. And as you go on, right, you have high level of motivation, so you're meeting the day-to-day challenges with a high level of excitement and expectation, right? But something happens along the way, right? So the day-to-day grind starts to become monotonous. It starts to become mundane, and soon the motivation drops, right? And once the motivation drops, there's only one thing that remains, is that goal you set for yourself, that work that it's going to take to get there. That's all that remains, and the motivation is gone. And this is when we've approached the second barrier. So the second barrier is the commitment barrier. So commitment is like, regardless if I feel like it or not, I'm gonna do it. If it's like my client who wakes up early, right? Regardless if I went to sleep late last night, I'm still getting up. That's commitment. Commitment is what pushes you through to the future. Is you're committed. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to go back. But what happens is, as people run into this barrier, it's because the motivation is gone. There's no more motivation. There's only work left to do, right? So when the work is high and the motivation is low, you start coming up with a whole bunch of excuses why you don't need to continue, right? You start being like, you know what? I've been so consistent, I think I deserve a day off, right? Or, you start questioning why you set the goals in the first place. Like, is losing the weight really that important to me? Things like that. Or you start to fall into self-sabotaging behaviors. All of those are just justifications to give up, right? Because you don't feel like it anymore. The motivation is gone, you don't want to do it. And that's why accountability is so powerful. Because when that happens, when those dark times happen, if you have the right amount of accountability, it will push you through there. And this barrier right here is the barrier between you and lasting change. What happens is as you go through that pain period, right? That time where you're like, oh, I don't want to do it, but you do it anyway, right? You start to create new neural networks. You are literally rewiring your brain. Your body gets the message of saying like, okay, regardless of if you feel like it or not, you're going to follow through. And your body starts to get that message, and it starts to make new neural networks, and something amazing happens after that, right? It becomes a habit, right? You stop thinking about it anymore. You don't need the motivation anymore. You just wake up and you go to the gym. You just go to the kitchen, you eat healthy food. It's just a part of your daily routine. It's like brushing your teeth or showering every day, right? So you don't need motivation or inspiration to brush your teeth in the morning, even though it's something that's, like brushing my teeth, whatever. It's not something that's exciting, but you do it every day because it's something that you've done with so much consistency and over such a long period of time that it's become wired into your nervous system that you just do it. There's no question about it. Like, am I going to brush my teeth today? Of course I'm going to brush my teeth today, right? So it's the same thing with working out. It's the same thing with eating healthy. It's the same thing with all the other goals in your life. Is when you pass through this barrier, the commitment barrier, when the motivation is gone but you still go through it anyway, your nervous system literally changes. You become a different human being, the type of human being that stays committed, the type of human being that keeps going, right? So, and that's why traditional personal training just doesn't produce results for so many people because, think about it. Most people will get 2 to 3 sessions per week, right? So on the higher end, that's 2 to 3 hours out of the week where you're with your personal trainer. There's 168 hours in a week. There's no way There's no way that that trainer can provide the right amount of accountability with just seeing you for less than 2% of your entire week. If all you're thinking about fitness is for less than 2% of your week, and then the other 98% you're back to the old habits, the old patterns, the old routines, then you're just going to be spinning your wheels. So you need to make sure that you have the right amount of accountability, and traditional personal training typically isn't going to give you that. Traditional personal training is about selling workouts and kind of hoping that you get the rest of it on your own, and that's not the key. You know what I mean? You have to have that accountability. You have to make sure that you're doing the things consistently, day in, day out. You need to be reminded. You need to be reminded about your goals. You need to be reminded about how important they are to you. You know what I mean? Or what you're doing them for in the first place, right? So that's it. That's why traditional personal training doesn't work. It doesn't provide you with the right amount of accountability to push you forward into the future you, right? So the you that's going to be consistent, the you that's going to be dedicated to your success, right? So I hope you guys got some value with that. And if you did, I've created a program specifically for this, to give you guys the right amount of accountability, to make sure you're following the right dietary programs, to make sure that your training program is dynamic and changing, and it's more of an educational program as well, so you'll be able to be more autonomous with your workouts. You won't ever need a trainer again. So if that's something that is interesting to you, go ahead and click the Learn More button down there. You're going to enter your name, you're going to enter your email address, and it's going to take you to a video where I explain what the program is about, why I created it, and how it can benefit you. So hopefully you guys found value in that. I look forward to talking with you guys pretty soon. All right.